How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? Round 8 of Many a Slip, and the ladies have won 6 games against the gentlemen's 1. It's anybody's contest. The teams, on my right, Isabel Barnett and Eleanor Summerfield, and on my left, Richard Murdoch and Lance Percival. Rules. I read out pieces with mistakes in them, and the first team member to spot a mistake presses a button. If it's a member of the ladies' team, it rings a bell. If it's a gentleman, it's a buzzer. The chairman's decision is final, and here we go. George built himself a new 4-bedroomed all-electric house with everything correctly wired for the normal 250-volt AC system. Isabel Barnett.
I don't know a thing about electricity. I only know that I'm 240. Shouldn't he be? I found the right.
Very personal question, then.
It is rather, isn't it? 250-volt AC. Messiter, you wrote this thing. Have you got it?
Yes, it's perfectly right. 250.
It's perfectly all right.
Just bad luck. You're 10 volts under.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you're 10 volts
I
under.
was 10 degrees
We won't
under.
take any marks off. Let me explain at this point the scoring, which we haven't touched on. It's 1 mark for making a mistake, for spotting a mistake, another mark for correcting it, and the marks are corrected to your team. But if a button is pressed for a mistake and there isn't one, then the marks go to the other team. And in this case, I think there was a reasonable doubt. We've now explained it to Isabel Barnett. She's happy. We're happy. We'll move on. When he moved in, there were no electric light bulbs anywhere, and each room had but one bulb socket, which hung from the middle of the ceiling by a single strand of insulated flex. Richard Murdoch.
Well, flex has 2 strands.
Yes.
So it couldn't have been a single strand.
2 marks to the gentleman. Bravo.
Hence, let's all go down the strand.
Right. By a double strand of insulated flex. He wanted a bright light in the kitchen, so he fitted a 150-amp bulb there. Richard Murdoch.
No, it was 150 thing wouldn't go... 100 what?
150-amp bulb.
Oh, there's no such thing as too bright.
No, it's a question of... just before we get that bell going. I think it's too heavy a load.
Right, I'll pass it to the ladies.
Oh.
What should it be?
Watts.
Right, 2 marks to the ladies. So he fitted a 150-watt bulb there.
Yes.
In reaching the socket, he stood on the gas cooker and damaged it.
All
Murdoch.
electricity. Yes.
All electric. 2 marks.
All electric.
Oh, we're going to win this week, Lance.
In the larder, a 25-watt bulb had already been fitted. Isabel Barnett.
You said there were no bulbs in any of the rooms.
So I did. 2 marks to the ladies. In the larder, a 250-watt bulb, a 25-watt bulb had not already been fitted, and George rightly concluded it had been...
Wasn't it John's house? Was it?
Yes.
I thought it was John's house before.
It was George's house. 2 marks to the ladies.
Oh, sorry. Well, he had 2 names, you see.
And George rightly concluded it had been left there by the previous owner. Eleanor Summerfield.
It was a new house, wasn't it?
And so?
So it couldn't have had a previous owner.
How true. 2 marks.
Oh, good.
Each of the bedrooms had been decorated in a different colour. Pink, blue, yellow, green and beige. Eleanor Summerfield.
You said 4 bedrooms, didn't you? And you just said 5 colours. For 5 each different colours, you know.
You're on the ball today, aren't you? Yes. 2 marks. The pink bedroom had bulb sockets in each of the 4 walls. Isabel Barnett.
You said originally that each room had hanging down Dickie's 2-stranded flex in the middle of the ceiling.
That's all, yes. 2 marks. The GPO telephone was disconnected, but as Joe was a bit of an electrician, he connected it... Lance Percival.
Well, I think Isabel Barnett was about to press, but I thought I'd pressed before her. There's something wrong with that GPO telephone there.
There's nothing wrong with that GPO telephone.
No, but it was wrong because if he was a bit of an electrician...
Who?
Read the sentence again, would you please?
The GPO telephone was disconnected, but as Joe was a bit of an electrician...
Well, it was George. Or John, you're right.
Yes, at the third bounce, Percival
At
gets
last he got it.
2 marks. But as George was a bit of an electrician, he connected it up to the 250-volt circuit. Isabel Barnett.
I think he'd be sent to jail for that. Am I not right that nobody is allowed to connect up telephones except a GPO engineer?
What would happen if he connected it up to the 250-volt circuit?
Yes. I don't know what would happen, but he mustn't and shouldn't and couldn't do it.
Right, 2 marks.
Yes,
He
because
rang up all his friends, asked them to a housewarming party, and they all lived happily ever afterwards. What's the score now, Ian
The
Mesco?
score is, I'm afraid the girls are still winning, and the boys at 14, and the boys are 6.
Oh, well. Now then, a little bit of history.
History?
History,
There's
yes.
another 20 points gone.
The Battle of Trafalgar was fought on October the 21st, 1815. Yes, Richard Murdoch.
That's one date I do know. It was
Yes.
1805.
2 marks to the educated Mr. Murdoch. 1805. This most famous of sea battles took place a few miles off Cape Finisterre. Mr. Murdoch.
Oh, well, Cape Finisterre is right up in the north by Coruña. This was right down in the south near Cadiz.
Yes. And what was the name of the cape?
Trafalgar.
Trafalgar, quite right. 2 marks. In the pleasant weather of early spring. Isabel Barnett.
Well, if you were right and Mester was right the first time about October, it couldn't have been the pleasant weather of early spring.
No, he couldn't, could it? No. 2 marks then. Right. Nelson was aboard the famous flagship HMS Royal Sovereign. Richard Murdoch.
Victory!
I hope
Still
so.
hanging about in Portsmouth, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it's still down there. Victory, yes. Royal Sovereign was Collingwood's flagship. HMS Victory. And when the enemy, the German fleet, hove in view...
I'm not having that, you know, even... I may be daft, but what is the answer?
Yes.
I can tell you it was the French and the Spanish, I think.
2 marks to the gentleman. The French and Spanish fleet hove in view. He telegraphed his famous... Isabel Barnett.
No.
No what, dear?
He didn't.
What
He
did he
didn't telegraph. He
What
put
did
it up in little flags, which I don't know about.
Yes.
But that's what he did.
He put it up on little flag. Shall we say signalled?
That's right.
2 marks.
Yes.
Signalled his famous signal. England expects each man to do his duty.
England expects every man.
No.
Let us have it again. What you say it should be?
What conference here, you see.
That England expects man to do his duty.
Yes, all right.
Yes.
Between you got it right.
This-
Lance Percival left out the that, but Richard Murdoch put it in. England expects that every man will do his duty.
Yeah.
In England that night, to celebrate the great victory, crowds gathered and sang round Nelson's collar. Isabel Bunny.
Well, the audience knows. No, they couldn't have done it round Nelson's column. There wasn't time to get it up.
Yes.
Quite.
Right, yeah. The friend, 2 marks. The friend...
I think there's another
Yes,
couple of
so
points
do I.
there, because owing to the somewhat lacking of speed by sending flag signals, they couldn't have been celebrating it that night.
Quite right, 2 marks.
Nice.
The French and Spanish fleet had been beaten, but Nelson had been mortally wounded so badly that he died. Who was that?
It
Isabel
was
Bunn.
I. And I think you're right. Now, wait, let me think. 1805. No, he wasn't mortally wounded on that one.
2 marks to the gentleman. There was
Actually, there is a grammatical point there, because you can't be mortally wounded badly or well. If you're mortally wounded, that's it, mate. You know, you're...
2 more marks to the gentleman.
I've seen the ship and he hit his head on that brass plate on the deck.
He was laid to rest in Westminster Abbey.
Um,
Anybody want to start anything?
He wasn't laid to rest there. We rest on that.
Right, 1 mark. Anybody, gentlemen, do you want to get a mark by saying where he was laid to rest?
Well, I don't want to lose one by getting it wrong.
No, St. Paul's Cathedral. And at the end of this historical piece, the score now is 22 to the gentlemen and 20 to the ladies.
Oh.
What a popular success. The day before yesterday, Lord and Lady Pragwell, who have cropped up before in this programme, were asked to open a bazaar in Pragwell Valley in aid of the Chronic Ginger Beer Drinkers Club. Lady Pragwell said they'd be delighted to declare the club open. Who was that?
Bazaar it was before.
Bazaar, quite right, 2 marks. So yesterday, with a dab of ginger beer behind each ear, Isabel Barnett.
The day before yesterday. They were asked?
Yes, but
they were asked if they would, the day before yesterday.
Oh.
So yesterday with a dab of ginger beer.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
2 marks to the gentleman.
They didn't give him much chance, did they?
No, well, they'd asked 2 or 3 people before who couldn't. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So yesterday, with a dab of ginger beer behind each ear because he had never been to a bazaar before, Lord Pragwell put on his flat cap and, in spite of being in his middle 50s, ran all the way to the bazaar at the top of the hill.
Well, you see, it was in Pragwell Valley before.
Yes.
And therefore, it won't be on ill, will it, there?
2 marks. He arrived coincidentally with Lady Pragwell, who had driven in the family coupe, arriving 5 minutes before him. Richard Murdoch.
She arrived 5 minutes before him, so they can't have arrived simultaneously.
It was a very large car, you see.
And he couldn't run with it.
Front end arrived with Lord Pragwell, and the back end arrived 5 minutes before it.
Nice visual gag, well worth 2 marks. Right. At 3 p.m.
Wrong time.
Isabel Barnett, is it? I hadn't said anything about time at all.
Well, it's
3
usually
p.m.
2, isn't it?
In this case, it was 3. 2 marks to the gentleman. He introduced his wife, Lady Pragwell, who spoke so well for 3 hours that none of the audience were bored. Richard Murdoch.
Oh, none of the audience. I think that's right.
None of the audience was bored.
Right,
well,
Lance Percival, 2 marks. None of the audience was bored. When she told how her husband had attended every bazaar...
He'd never opened a bazaar before.
Not in Pragwell Valley, anyway.
He'd never attended a bazaar, in fact.
Yes, 2 marks. 2 marks.
Gone mad.
There's a short circuit in the bell.
When she told how her husband hadn't attended every bazaar since his birth in 1920... There's something. Isabel Barnett.
I presume this is taking place in the present day, more or less.
Of course, time in the present.
Then he was in his middle 50s, so
Yes.
he couldn't have been born in 1920-something.
Can't argue with that. 2 marks to the lady.
I thought we'd give them that one, you know.
They cheered wildly and threw tomatoes nonchalantly at each other, knocking Lord Pragwell's grey topper off in the process.
It was
Isabel
a flat
Barnett.
cap.
A flat cap, yes, quite right. 2 marks. At the end of this speech, the Pragwells had had enough and went back to Pragwell Hall, arriving in time for hot muffins.
I thought it was Pragwell Manor before.
Nothing about Pragwell Manor so far. No. 2 marks to the ladies.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Never mind.
The Pragwells had had enough and went back to Pragwell Hall, arriving in time for hot muffins at 5 o'clock.
No, it was
Eleanor Summerfield.
Yeah, well, she spoke for such a long time. It's past that time now, you see.
Yes.
Yes.
But they arrived at 5 a.m. They had a long drive back. You see.
2 marks for Eleanor Summerfield and the ladies' team, which brings us to 34 to the gentlemen against 28 to the ladies. And at this point, I'm handing over to Steve Race at the piano for some musical mistakes.
Good.
Thank you, Roy. There's no denying that the 3 most popular piano concertos are, first of all, the one by Tchaikovsky, by Rachmaninoff, I should hope so too. Who did that?
Who was that? Lance Percival.
That was not by Rachmaninoff.
Oh, that gets you 1 point. Well,
wasn't
that's
by
1
John
point
Lennon, was
anyway.
it?
Let's have a ting over there. Eleanor.
I think it was the Mendelssohn violin. wasn't
It was, and you'll get the other point. That's 1 to each. And the third concerto I was going to mention was by Grieg. Grieg's piano concerto in A major begins like this. A minor, never mind, it begins like this.
Isabel Bonner.
Isabel.
The second note was wrong. Dum, ba ba bum, ba ba
Yes, good enough. Yeah, I'll take that.
Different
2 points.
keys, but it comes
I'll
through
take
in the
it.
end.
2 points to the ladies. Time for our quick medley. All these songs are about the weather.
Eleanor Somerville.
Eleanor?
Ba 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 ba.
Yes, 2 points. Da 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 dee dee. 2 points to the ladies. On to the next tune. Another 2 points lost there.
Now, that I don't think that was about the weather.
What was it called?
What's it called, Lance? It's the one that goes la la da dee.
I'll put you out of your misery,
love the
Dickie.
sunshine of your
The
smile.
sunshine of your
Score.
smile, 2 points to the ladies. It was about the weather. The next tune you're sure to remember, Stormy Weather. Anyway, here's the middle bit.
Eleanor Somerville.
Pinged. Yes, it goes up first and down second. 2 more points. And to close the medley part, just the last phrase of this tune.
Richard Meadow.
That is not about the weather.
You're quite right.
It's
What is
called
it about?
Bye Bye Blackbird.
And that gets you 2 points. Very good. 2 points for the men. And finally, from my point of view, from Italy, Funicular Funiculi. Oh, somebody want to say
Other way
Bonner.
around. Funiculi, funicola.
Funicular. Beautifully pronounced, 2 points. Yes, here's the tune.
Eleanor Somerville.
Eleanor?
Da 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 da.
2 points. Jolly good.
Thank you, Steve Race, and that musical interlude brought the score to 41 to the ladies and 37 to the gentlemen.
It's a pity
Geography.
you came on, Steve.
Yes. We'll try and fix that. Anyway,
Yes. Geography. Portugal is a European country roughly bounded by longitude 7 to 9 west and latitude 37 to 42 north. Any argument? No, it's quite right. In other words, Portugal runs down the west coast of Spain. Lance Beswell.
no, it's impossible for it borders on Spain. It doesn't run down the west coast of Spain.
Runs down the west side, shall we say?
West side.
Yes, too much.
It's a sort of west side story, really.
Yes. One of its most famous exports is port, which grows on the banks of the... Eleanor Somerville.
Port doesn't actually grow, does it?
It's the grapes.
You grow the grapes and then you make the port.
Right, 2
Yes.
marks. Of the River Douro. There are not many large towns or cities in Portugal other than Lisbon and Valencia.
No. Valencia is in Spain.
Right. 2 points to Lance Percival and the gentleman. Swimming from the little Portuguese fishing villages in the waters of the Mediterranean.
There's no...
No, it's well outside the Mediterranean.
It's all
Got to
washy-
get past Jib before you get to the Med.
Yes.
It's Atlantic.
Atlantic. 2 marks. And there is good fishing to be had a few miles off the east coast.
No, there's no east coast of Portugal, unless you happen to be dipping into a Spanish river.
Right, 2 marks. And the end of that geographical piece has brought the gentleman into the lead again by 45 to 43. It's getting good. And I think they have possibly a slight advantage in the next piece, which is about soccer.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It's all yours, Lance.
In this following soccer announcement, we know the scores are fictitious, so there's no need to correct these. So here we go with League Division 1. Everton 3, Wolves 3. Fulham 2, West Ham 0. East Bromwich Albion 2,
West Bromwich Albion.
2 marks to Lance Percival. West Bromwich Albion 2, Nottingham Forest 3. Yes, Isabel Bunce. What have you done?
Oh, I've done the most dreadful thing. It isn't in the first division.
It is.
Oh, I knew it was.
2 marks to begin.
I can't go home tonight, within 15 miles of Nottingham.
No, it's Notts County.
Right. Stoke Town 4.
Stoke City.
City.
City, 2 marks to the ladies. Stoke City 4, Bolton 0. Blackpool 3, Motherwell 2.
Oh, Motherwell is a Scottish lot of laddies who do not come south very much.
2 marks to the gentleman.
And cannot beat Rangers either, I tell you that for nothing.
Not until Mother gets
Birmingham
better.
0, Harlequins 6. Eleanor Sunfield.
Harlequins aren't a football team.
Oh, they
Well,
are.
rugby football.
Yes, that's what I mean. We're
Rugby
talking
football
about
team.
the other kind.
2 marks.
Yeah.
Chelsea 4, Aston Villains 1.
Aston Villa.
Lance Percival.
Aston Villa. They are a bunch of villains, I'll give you that. But, Aston Villa.
All right. And the score now is 53 to the gentlemen, 47 to the ladies. And poetry. Here are the first 2 verses of The Walrus and the Carpenter by Carol Levis. Richard Murdoch.
Opportunity
It
not.
wasn't Carol Levis, no, it was the other chap, Dodson, Lewis Carroll.
Lewis Carroll, 2 marks. The sun was shining on the sea, shining so very bright. Richard Murdoch.
Wasn't it shining with all its might?
2 marks. Shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the waves all smooth and bright. Eleanor Sumfield.
I think it's the billows.
The billows it is, 2
Yes.
marks. The billows smooth and bright. And this was strange because... Eleanor Summerfield.
And this was odd because.
This was odd because... 2 marks.
Oddican.
It was the middle of the night. Second verse. The Walrus and the Carpenter... Eleanor Summerfield.
You've left some out. The second verse is... Well, it's something else. Wait a minute. The sea was wet as wet could be, or something like that.
Never mind, it wasn't the second verse. It was indeed the fourth.
Yes.
2 marks. The Walrus and the Carpenter were walking hand in hand. Murdoch?
Were they walking hand in hand?
Don't ask me. I got left behind a Carol Levis as far as I got.
Who passed on the ladies' team?
Eleanor.
I did.
Eleanor.
They were close at hand. They
Yes.
were just good friends.
Yes. Were walking close at hand. 2 marks. They cried like anything to see such quantities of sand. Eleanor Summerfield.
I don't think I should have done that. Did they wept like anything?
Yes, 2 marks.
Oh,
They
good.
wept like anything
Yeah.
to see such quantities of sand. If this were only swept away, they said. Eleanor Summerfield.
I'm sure that's wrong.
Yes, it is.
The water comes walking hand in hand. They wept like anything to see such quantities of sand. If this were only cleared away.
2 marks.
Yeah.
If this were only cleared away, they said, then wouldn't it be grand?
It doesn't go, does it? They said it would be grand.
2 marks. And that brings the ladies into the lead again with 60 to 57. A cowboy story.
Glee.
The hot Nevada sun stood high over the dusty main street of Redwood Gulch when the fat, swarthy stranger rode in. The marshal had just finished his supper and was smoking a pipe. Yes, Richard.
Well,
Miller.
he doesn't have supper in the middle of the day when the sun's right overhead.
2 marks. The marshal had just finished his 11s and was smoking a pipe outside the Black Ace saloon. The stranger looked at him, and his red beard bristled.
He
Isabel
was
Bunce.
dark and swarthy.
2 marks.
He might have had a red beard, I must admit, but no, we'll stick to dark and swarthy.
Right. I know you, he snarled. Richard Murdoch.
Well, I thought he was a stranger. Didn't take him long to get to know him.
He might have known him somewhere else.
I think you've got a point here, Murdoch. Didn't you think
Yes,
so, miss?
give him a point for that. Give him 2 for that.
Give it
Two for that. Stranger, I know. Yes.
Yeah.
I know you, he snarled. I know you, too, the Marshal snarled back, throwing away his... Yes, Richard Murdoch.
Oh, I thought the Marshal spoke first, Richard.
No,
And I know
stranger.
you too, the Marshal snarled back, and I've lost 2 points, haven't I? Yes.
Yes, two... Yes, Eleanor Sumfield.
You said throwing away his... And it must have been cigarette end because he was smoking a pipe. You said throwing away his...
Well, wait till we get to
I
it.
didn't
Throwing away
get there.
his...
I cannot accept that. I have
Oh.
He might have been throwing away his pipe. He might have got tired.
Yes, but I don't.
He might have given up smoking altogether. Throwing away his cigar and advancing... Lance
Never have I
Percival.
waited for something with a finger pressing on it.
You wanted to say, Mr. Percival?
I was wanting to say that he was smoking a pipe.
Yeah. 2 marks. And advancing towards him. We don't want your kind in Blackwood Gulch.
Oh.
It's changed colour. It was Redwood Gulch last time.
Right, Isabel Barnett. 2
Gotta
marks.
work.
We don't want your kind in Redwood Gulch. Keep her riding till you're clear out of Arizona.
No,
That was a dead heat.
yes, it was Nevada.
Yes.
1 mark each side.
2 points each.
1 point each. Suddenly, the stranger went for his gun. But the Marshal drew his 6-shooter like greased lightning and fired 4 times in rapid succession. The stranger's slim body twitched.
No, he was fat and swarthy before. He was
2 marks, Lance.
fat and swarthy.
The stranger's fat and small body twitched, but somehow he managed to level his gun. Bang! 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 The Marshal's gun spoke again.
No, it's only a 6-shooter, and you've got one too many bangs, if you'll excuse the expression.
Right. 2 more marks, Lance. The Marshal's gun spoke only twice. And the stranger dropped like a poleaxe steer onto the muddy ground.
No, it was
Lance Percival.
a sort of certainly in Nevada.
Yeah.
Hot,
It's
sunny,
hot, sunny.
lovely
You know, there's no mud about really. It's dry.
You think?
Well, in my experience in Nevada, you know, it's all desert out there.
In the dusty Main Street.
Yeah.
Yes. Right, 2 marks. And at this point, that is as far as we can go. Now, while Messiter's trembling hand is adding up the score, let's have a look here. This is twist or bust, isn't it? The gentleman, 70, and the ladies, 67. Oh, there'll be wild doings in London tonight. And that's all for this week. On behalf of our 2 teams, Isabel Barnett, Ellen Sumfield, and Richard Murdoch, and Lance Percival, the triumphant pair on my left, and Steve Race, the musical mistakes man, I'll say goodbye.